Law Talk with Nick Maruchak, thanks to MKI Legal, your trusted employment and family lawyers.
G'day, Nick. How are you?
Good, Bowie. How are you?
Yeah, going very well, thank you. We are going to talk about, there's been a warning over dodgy unlicensed car dealers. We've been talking cars and odometers and bottoms of cars being sprayed.
Yep.
Possibly fleet vehicles that have come out of mine sites. So that's been an issue for us. What's the latest on the dodgy unlicensed car dealers?
So the Department of Consumer Protection recently released just a warning to members of the public about buying secondhand cars. So if you, the warning is really about purchasing vehicles in private sales. So if you, and this is something just for our listeners to be aware of, how the law protects you when you purchase a vehicle from a private person as opposed to a dealer. Mm-hmm. So if you purchase from a private individual, you get less rights. So if they're not running a business, the Australian consumer law doesn't apply. So the Australian consumer law is pretty powerful because there's automatic conditions that will come with a car, even if it's secondhand. So the vehicle must be of acceptable quality, right? So after you purchase it, especially a secondhand vehicle, it's supposed to be used for, it's supposed to be of good quality. It shouldn't break down straight away. Mm-hmm. When you purchase from a private dealer, you don't get those benefits because Australian consumer law only applies if someone's running a business.
Yep, okay.
So that's a risk you take. The department also said that if there's also something that's going on where people are really running an unlicensed dealership. So if you sell 4 or more cars in a 12-month period, then you're covered by the dealership laws, the Motor Vehicle Dealers Act, and you could be fined. So some people, they call it curbing, I think, where, you see a vehicle advertised on the side of a road. So a lot of people are trying to get around the legislation by just selling vehicles themselves. Because when you buy from a dealer, if the vehicle is under a certain period of time, so as long as it's not more than 15 years old or more 12 years old, then it comes with certain warranties, right? So depending on the age of the vehicle, the dealer will give you a 3-month warranty for the car. If anything breaks down, they fix it, or a little bit less if it's depending on how old it is.
Okay. So do you reckon the Reader's Mart back in the day, the Sunday Times Reader's Mart, and that's where you used to go for for your $3,000 HQ Holden sedan. That's where I bought mine, I think. I guess people now go to Facebook and Marketplace and those sorts of things, don't they?
Yep.
And also the websites like car sales are huge, aren't they? All right, so that's good to know. Do you have any questions for Nick Maruchak today? 133 882. And have you purchased a car in a private sale? But that's a buyer beware.
Yep. But
I didn't know that one about that. If you sell 4 in a year, you're a dealership.
That's right.
Status.
So if you are buying from an individual, from a private, just do the PPSR search. Costs a couple of bucks, and it'll tell you if the vehicle it's a repairable write-off. So that's also important, and it will tell you if there's any kind of any loans attached to the vehicles. Last thing you want to do is purchase a vehicle, and then someone comes in and repossesses it because they've got an interest in it. In the PPSR search. So that's something to do, and Department of Transport also has some free checks as well. So there is a good checklist Consumer Protection has for buying a secondhand vehicle. So to run through that if you are going down that path.
I think I know the answer to this question, but an auction house would be classed as a dealer, wouldn't they? A dealership.
Yeah, look, the thing with auctions, right, is auctions are a funny one because auctions, the Australian consumer law doesn't apply. Well, a lot of the protections don't apply when you purchase a vehicle from auction. Yeah, right. So if the vehicle breaks down later, there's limited recourse against the auction. The auction house has to give you good title, and there's a few basic things they have to give you. But it's generally more risky if you purchase something from auction because of the exception auction places have for the Australian consumer law, the acceptable quality implied term not applying. So that's also something to bear in mind. More risk with auctions.
I bought a car at an auction probably 20 years ago. It was a Ford Fairlane station wagon or Ford Falcon station wagon. Got it home. A month later, it rained. Filled up with water. the back there just completely full of water. I didn't know until it started raining. Not a leg to stand on. 133 882 if you'd like to have a chat today. We'd love to hear from you. Nick Maruchak would like to hear from you today. So Greg has SMS'd you, Nick. I understand the ATO, the Australian Tax Office, will never write, hey, this person has a second job. But are there any other ways that might tip off an employer that someone has a second job? I have a slight feeling my employer's caught on because it's a small business, so more time to look at each employee in detail. By the way, the two jobs have no connections whatsoever or any overlaps during the work hours. Do you know is there a tax code or some way people might pick up if someone has a second job?
So if you have a second job with the ATO, when you lodge your taxes, you have to declare all your taxes from all sources, right? So if you don't declare, then if you do cashies and stuff, you're infringing the tax legislation. And if you ever get caught, that can be a tax prosecution. Be honest when you're lodging your taxes there, because there are risks. But in terms of the employer finding out, really, it's just a case of someone dobs you in, right? Because sometimes you have to look at your employment contract. What does your contract say? Sometimes there's a term in the contract that says exclusive service, or you can only work for us, or you can't work for anyone else unless you get our permission. So have a look at that term, because if you do have that second job, maybe they might have grounds to fire you in some circumstances, especially if you're working for a competitor. But if you're a part-time person and casual, then there's less grounds there. So in terms... Yeah, so hopefully that helps to some extent, but there isn't anything that I can think of that someone can publicly search just to find out if you've got that second job.
Hope that helped, Greg. Give us a call. Ring Nick Maruchak today, 133 882. We'll come back to Nick has been looking at this using artificial intelligence at work and some of the legal implications, because around 1 in 4 GPs in Australia now use AI to assist with note-taking. So that is an issue that some experts are warning patient-sensitive medical data could be at risk if the AI bots get hold of it. We'll stay listening, 16 and a half minutes to 11 o'clock. Ring Nick, he's very good, 133 882. Nick Maruchak is with us from MKI Legal. If you want to call in, you can. WA have faced 25 balls and they're none for 2 against New South Wales. New South Wales won the toss and have elected to bowl at the Wacker. So we'll follow this with great interest. None for 2 or 25 balls. Bancroft on 2. Sam Whiteman yet to get off the mark. 13 minutes to 11 o'clock. Nick Maruchak is with us. We have a question that's come in from John in Mandurah. G'day, John. Can licensed car dealers sell repairable write-off vehicles?
So there is an obligation on dealers to disclose if a vehicle is under 15 years old is a repairable write-off. So they have to disclose it to you. It has to be in writing. And if you're aware of it and you buy it, then technically they can sell it.
How can it be a write-off but repairable?
So I think so then they have to, my understanding is they had to get it re-registered. So the vehicle went through the process of damage, unregistered, and then registration process. So these vehicles, obviously, if a repair or write-off is going to come up on the PPSR search, it's going to have a lower market value. It's going to scare future sellers off, buyers off, if you can want to sell it. So it's obviously not going to be worth as much. In the past, dealers only had to tell you if you asked, but now they've got to tell you. So they have to disclose it in the writing.
Yeah, all right.
So
there you go, John. Thank you, mate. Thanks for sending in your correspondence. Ring Nick today, 133 882. The use of AI, will it ever be used in your profession, AI?
Great question. So this is something, for me, I'm a big proponent of AI. Our firm is really getting on board on this. And the way we approach it is it's going to help lawyers do their job more efficiently. I don't think AI at this stage is going to replace a lawyer. Whenever you want legal advice, you want the lawyer or human to back it up. So you have some sort of certainty that it's right. But the courts are making progress in this, so slowly but surely. The courts in New South Wales have recently, they're the ones that are on the cutting edge of this. In the Supreme Court of New South Wales, they actually put some restrictions on when AI can be used. So they said that if you're in court proceedings, you can't disclose the court documents you get inside the proceedings into the AI unless you are sure that it's not going to be used in training data. Because everything you get in court and during the court process is confidential until there's a trial and it's in the public domain. So sometimes you get discovery, you get other sides' documents. You get so much confidential stuff. So if you're going to chuck that in the AI, at least in New South Wales, you have to make sure it's not being trained upon.
Well.
You can't, they restrict AI use in Supreme Court New South Wales to prepare witness statements. So a witness statement, when you go to trial, is a witness's version of events. So you can't let AI prepare that. My understanding is probably because you want the witness's version of events to be their story and not to be created by AI.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, a lot of stuff happening there, but in WA, not so many restrictions, and but the states might follow in New South Wales.
Yeah, for sure. Rob's phoning. G'day, Rob. Fire away, mate.
Yeah, G'day, Simon. Nick.
Hey, Rob.
Nick, just ringing on behalf of my mother. She had a job quoted on to do her garden, so mulching and the like, and the quote was $4,500, which she had 2 quotes. She accepted this one. When the job was completed, apparently they misquoted slightly, and the final bills come in at $1,500 more than quoted. I've just had a look at the fine print. It does say that they can charge more than what they quoted, but just wondering where we stand, because the point is they wouldn't have got the job if we'd known what the final amount was.
Yeah, so this is something that I think is a little bit concerning. Generally, if someone, there is some dodgy practice, I'm not saying that I've heard, where people will give you a low quote and then, they'll take your money and then you put a deposit in and then they'll try and increase the quote. If that kind of ever happens, so you just ask for your money back, right? And it's actually illegal for people to do that and to take money and not deliver the services. They get prosecuted. In this case here, I think that it sounds like you may have grounds not to pay the additional price. You really have to have a look at the terms, conditions, and there's other law protecting you from unfair contract terms. So they have some sort of term that says they can increase the price without discussing it with you first, without telling you. That potentially might be an unfair term. So I would push back on that and say, look, this is the quote. I didn't have. For example, if they didn't even tell you up front the revised estimate and they just put that on you, then that might be grounds to avoid the additional fee. So in terms of moving forward, I would say you would go, this is the quote, this is what you charge me, and I'm entitled to the extra amount. If they push back and say, well, there's a term in our quote, then you say, have a look at unfair contract terms. They basically protect consumers from dodgy terms in standard contracts that are unfair, and those will just be eliminated. And so that's what I would do, and try and not pay the additional amount.
Does that help, Rob?
Perfect. Yeah, no, it does. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate. Let us know how you go. Hey, Rob. That's a very interesting situation. This is from Milton. This is for you, Nick. The question is not about law, but I'm going to be studying law next year. I want to get some tips on it, the best method to go about doing it. I'm 62 years old and I work full-time, and I'm going to study it part-time online. I do want to get some volunteer work in a law firm to get some more experience, if possible, probably in the first year. Anything you can recommend that can help me pursue my passion?
A great question, Milton. I wish you success in this. I love the practice of law. There's a few things I would recommend that you get practical experience as quickly as you can. I would have a look at these not-for-profit community legal centres like Green Circle, and there's so many of them out there. They really need good help from law students. So volunteer at one of those places. You'll get some real life experience helping people in need as well. That will really count a lot. So put that on your CV and then try and apply for work experience. Use that as a stepping stone to try and get into law firms because the practical experience is the way to go, and it beats learning from the books any time of the week.
Like a lot of professions, isn't it? Sometimes if you're transitioning across, you need to start from scratch again and just make your way and get some contacts and do some voluntary work wherever you can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, when I was going through law school, I was working at a law firm. I got exposed to wills and I was drafting wills. And then when I learnt that, at university, I just knew everything about it. And and there's a side also to law, which is the drafting skill and the advocacy skills as well. So that they don't really teach that so much at university. They teach a little bit, but you really want to try and work on your communication skills, your arguments, and your drafting. And if you get that, you'll be well on your way.
Yeah, good luck, Milton. That's 62. Doing that at 62 is a big move, isn't it?
Not too late, and you have a good decade, 15 years of law and ahead of you there. So
another 10 or 15 years, Milton, ahead of you. Thanks, mate. Thanks, Nick. We'll take a break. It's coming up 5 minutes to 11. If you have a question for Nick Maruchak, please make yourself known via our phone number 133 882. Back in a sec. Peter Dutton is the Liberal leader in this country, Nick, and he's been saying, listen, if I get into power, I'm going to make all public servants come back to work. They won't be working from home. Can he do that, do you think?
Well, generally they can, right? So it depends. If you have a term in the contract that says that I'm allowed to work from home and there's no other power in the contract to vary that, then the employer has to ask you to sign a new contract. Okay. And you don't have to sign a new contract. So there could be some restrictions in that, but I doubt that government would agree to a contract like that. So under the contract, they probably have the power. So then what public servants have is they have this right, if you've been there at your workplace for more than 12 months, you have the right to make a flexibility request. So you can make a flexibility request to change the hours you work, where you work, e.g. work from home, under certain conditions. And they're generally if you have care for children, if you have some sort of medical condition, if you're over, I think, 55 years of age. So there are a few criteria that's set that if those apply to you, you can ask your employer, hey, because of these things, I'm caring for my kids, I have to drop them off at school, or my medical condition, can I work from home 1 or 2 days a week? And they have to be reasonable in trying to consider your request.
Yep.
And if they unreasonably refuse, then you have some rights to go to the Fair Work Commission and argue that. So that's something that they can try. It's not a guaranteed win. So generally speaking, yes, the employer can request you to come in. You have to follow a lawful and reasonable direction of the employer. And this sounds like a lawful and reasonable direction. So on balance, if it was a flat flexibility right, Peter Dutton probably will have that right to request them.
I know the last place I worked, once you've been there 3 months, you could and passed your probation, or 5 months, passed your probation, then you could apply, working 2 days a week at home. But it was at your director's or your manager's discretion.
Yeah.
So there still was a little clause in there. You needed that discretion and that permission.
Yeah, and sometimes each company have their own unique policy, so it's a good idea to check your company's policies, read that, and understand it before you go in and ask, so you're fully prepared to maximise your chances. But yeah, it's
often a selling point at the interview stage, isn't it? Nick, thank you for today, mate. What's on at the moment? What's on this afternoon at work? Can you tell me? Doing a lot of legal work today, just closing loose ends off. That today is a busy work day today. Yeah.
So
good luck. All right, mate. We'll see you next week. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for chatting to our listeners. Good on you, mate. Nick Maruchak from MKI Legal. He'll be back with us next week. Coming up after 11 o'clock, Mick Collis will join us. I'll have an update for you from the caretaker opposition leader on costings.